Are you insulin resistant? How would you even know if you're insulin resistant? Yeah, you can go out there and get a test from your doctor, but what's the point of getting the test if you don't even know what it is? What are the effects of it on your health? Why you need to know how it impacts your health, and most importantly, how to fix that. Well, we're gonna talk about that, and we're gonna do it all in less than 10 minutes. So in case you don't know who I am, my name is Dr. Jones. I have clinics that service across the nation. I work with my medical practitioners. They're the ones that do the prescriptions and I do the coaching. When it comes to GLP-1 medications, we have a very successful platform for coaching people just like you to utilize their GLP-1 medications, minimizing side effects, minimizing complications, maximizing long-term results. And we do that because we focus on microdosing and implementing proper and strategic lifestyle interventions. So in order to understand what is insulin resistance, you need to understand what insulin does. So insulin is a hormone that's responsible for driving, from what you have probably heard, the sugar, the glucose, from your blood into the cells. But it doesn't just do that. It's not just storing glucose and carbohydrates. It's also very, very powerful and responsible for storing protein or amino acids, the breakdown individual building blocks of protein, and fats too as well. So we have macronutrients, which are the calories, which are the energy, carbohydrates, protein, and fat. And insulin's job is to drive that nutrients from the blood into the cells. It's a storage hormone. In fact, insulin is the most powerful storage hormone. Why is that a big deal? If you see this graph here, this graph will really help you understand over a 24-hour period, insulin is not supposed to be elevated, right, above baseline. Even if you ate a bunch of carbohydrate, sugar-laden, insulin spiking meals, you can see your blood glucose rises, the insulin spikes, and then the blood glucose goes down and insulin goes down. Even 6 times, those little peaks are very thin, meaning over time, because on the bottom of this graph is time, you don't really see that much elevated insulin. And you look at this pie graph here over a 24-hour period, insulin is very low, 5, 10, 15% when you are insulin sensitive, which you'll soon understand and appreciate what that means. Being insulin sensitive means you're not insulin resistant, right? So you're not insulin resistant, you're insulin sensitive. Insulin levels are not elevated that often relative to a 24-hour period. Okay, now we understand that part. As you start to become insulin resistant, you start producing more and more insulin. So let's kind of segue from insulin into insulin resistance. Insulin resistance is a condition in which your body's responsiveness to insulin starts to decrease. Well, if your body didn't do anything to compensate for the decreased response to insulin, your blood sugar levels would rise, and that would ultimately kill you very quickly, as seen in uncontrolled diabetes. So now you probably have heard of this condition called hyperinsulinemia, or simply stated, chronically elevated insulin levels. Hyperinsulinemia, or chronically elevated insulin levels, is the effect of, yes, the way that you eat, your lifestyle, eating a bunch of carbohydrates, eating a bunch of processed foods, being stressed out, which raises cortisol, which raises blood sugar. There's all these different things in lifestyle, but the main actual contributing factor to reach the point where your insulin levels are so elevated that you now have hyperinsulinemia, AKA chronically elevated insulin levels, is because you become insulin resistant. And as you can see from these graphs here, now the response to the meal that you eat, it's a little bit different. Blood sugar rises, insulin rises, not as steep, and it doesn't go down as fast. And if you look at your baseline, insulin levels are even higher. So this is a very progressive condition. This graph represents being what we call the path to insulin resistance. And then when you become full-blown insulin resistant, you can see that it gets even worse. And this pie graph really, I love showing you this because now you can see all 3 pie graphs and you can see how you progress for more and more insulin levels being elevated relative to that 24-hour period. Now, why is that a big deal? Remember when I talked about what insulin does? Store. That's fine when you are in those situations where you have a bunch of glucose that you just ate and you need to get it out of the blood. But when you start having insulin levels over the 24-hour period, now you start getting into the symptoms that many of you guys have been struggling to understand: the tiredness, the brain foggy. You have all this fat on your body, but you can't tap into the energy. Wanted to interrupt this show for a minute and let you guys know about the new YouTube subscription program that we have. This is direct access into the Flow Academy membership, my private community, which is hosted on Mighty Networks. If you guys want to be connected to me, if you want to have more access, the community is amazing. We have thousands of individuals who are all kicking ass, right now, implementing the flow protocol and implementing my guidance to make sure that they use these medications correctly. It's $27 a month, and you can join right now by clicking that subscription button on your YouTube page. Now, back to the show. Why would your body allow you to waste the energy? Why would your body want to keep you tired? It's not that your body wants to do that. It's responding to the signal from insulin, because insulin is elevated over 24 hours and it's grow, 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 store, 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 store. And this right here, folks, is the most important thing. It's that signal from insulin that's happening more often throughout the 24 hours. That's the actual problem. This is why you have this propensity to gain weight. This is why you're tired. This is why you're brain foggy. This is why you have a bunch of belly fat and visceral fat. This is why every single time you try to lose weight, your body tries to regain that, and it fights you tooth and nail to not only lose it, but it fights you to maintain it. Now, giving you some real life context, because I know a lot of you guys watching this can relate to this. First, you were insulin resistant. Then you started noticing the blood sugar levels rising, the A1C. The A1C is the measurement of your blood sugar over 90 days. Then you became pre-diabetic, A1C hit 5.7. Then you became type 2 diabetic. Then the doctor gave you a little bit of metformin, and then it was more metformin, and then it was a second medication like a sulfonylurea, and then it was more of that medication. And then it was probably a third medication, maybe like a glipizide. And then finally you became an insulin-dependent diabetic. First it was a little bit of insulin, and then it was more insulin. And it's no different if you're obese. 5 pounds, 10 pounds, 20 pounds, 40 pounds, 80 pounds, slowly over 1, 2, 4, 8 years. Very, very progressive, but very, very consistent. It really, really gets me worked up when your doctor says, oh, Mrs. Jones, sorry, you're gonna be diabetic for the rest of your life. Diabetes is a chronic, irreversible disease. Obesity is a chronic, irreversible disease. Bullshit. So many holistic and functional practitioners will tell that to the thousands of patients that I have personally helped reverse or put into remission. Could care less what you want to call it, same thing. Remission does mean that maybe the disease can come back sooner. Fine, we call it remission. I don't really care what we call it. We handle the problem in front of us. We restore health. You can absolutely do this, and don't let anything that any doctor has told you make you believe and sink into the narrative, because I promise you this, the moment you believe that, it's the moment you're done. So how do you fix it? Is it really this complicated? No. Why is your doctor so negative about it? Because he or she just doesn't see this kind of stuff ever happen, let alone get into any life. There's no lifestyle coaching. There's no discussions about strategies of how you should be eating, when you should be eating, what types of food you should be eating. None of that happens. But like I'm telling you right now, you want to reverse your diabetes, you want to fix your obesity, you stop eating carbohydrates. Yes, your brain and body needs glucose to survive, but you don't need to eat glucose. You need to eat sugar. You don't need to eat carbohydrates. Your body is very capable of making its own blood glucose. Now, do I think and recommend that everybody should be on a fully ketogenic diet for the rest of your life, whether that's carnivore? We'll save that for another video. Not saying that that's not true, but having confidence that you want to be on a ketogenic diet for the rest of your life. I personally don't, but eating less carbohydrates, ketogenic diet, carnivore diet, paired up with fasting. So now we get into more aggressive interventions. Fasting, the absence of eating, is going to be the fastest way you can lower insulin levels. And if you haven't figured it out already, lowering your insulin levels through lifestyle, the thing that led to the resistance to begin with, is the thing that's going to allow you to heal from the resistance. Yes, you have to address cortisol if you have an issue there. Yes, you have to address inflammation, and different videos to talk about that. But at the end of the day, it's those lifestyle interventions. What I've created is the flow protocol, FLOA, fasting like our ancestors. So we get our patients into these weekly rounds of fasting, say 48 hours. Dr. Jones, you're a madman. Did you just say 48 hours every single week? Yes, I did. Understand though, this will be made really easy by the peptides and the GLP-1 medication, semaglutide, tirzepatide, retatrutide. You don't need to do 48 hours per week for life. Just give me 3 to 6 months. Let's get the bulk of your fat burned off your body from fasting so you don't have to worry about a bunch of exercise. Get your ass to the gym 3 days a week, lift some heavy weights, keep the protein intake high, which isn't an issue if you're carnivore, and let's use some strategic peptides like tirzepatide, semaglutide, retatrutide, paired up with some AOD 9604. If you guys are curious and you want to learn more about how we do this correctly, what the program entails, watch this video here on the left. Let me know what you guys think in the comments. We'll see you later.